so now just a matter of, yeah, we've got wires come back to that valve socket and wires come back to that valve socket, so that's pretty easy to change. That's safe to sit like that, isn't it? So these two wires, I think I'll just get a modern mains cable and we'll just strip that off, and the yellow wire will become a blue wire or whatever. We can go brown and blue. Now we do actually have a bit of blue wire on these lamps, probably the pieces in between, or the piece in between has got to go as well. So if we can rewire them, I can screw this back on, hopefully never have to touch that again, and we can get the caps for the amplifier, and I think this thing's just about done as far as I'm going with it then. I guess ideally all these caps, maybe we'll cut the ends off some of those paper caps and just test them. You really probably need a mega or something on those and put a high voltage into them. Well, I think a mega is AC, isn't it? We probably need a high DC voltage. I guess we really need to just make a meter, hook up a high DC voltage with a ammeter in series and see if anything flows through them. That might be the best test. I'll have to have a look online. Someone must have come up with some sort of device like that for checking leakage in these things. The fact that it largely works, I might even just leave it as it is. Well, when I went to the scrap bin, I originally grabbed a piece of extension cord, mains cord I was going to use. Then I found this wiring harness I think came off that computer power supply I looked at and didn't get going. So I think we just take a few cable ties off this. We should have plenty of decent length cable. So all we really got to do is just unsolder one end. I prefer to remove the old wire. We'll see if it actually comes off, and then we can twist them together. So it's the red and the green there, I think. Maybe I should just cut them. The more I look at it, let's get some fresh solder onto it. That does actually look like it's just sitting there, but I bet it's not. It's probably wrapped round. I don't think they ever just sat them there in those days. Even though they didn't need that much mechanical integrity, I don't think. I know they did with this one, that's good. Thought it looked like that. So the yellow is with that bluey green. I think it's a green, but it's gone a bit blue. Let's put a new yellow there. Tin it and shove it through. Probably shouldn't tin it over the radio ideally, but so I think they went between those reds there. Yeah, that's it. Probably should have cut it a bit shorter actually, but anyway. Depends how professional you want it to look, I guess. But always nice to do a neat job. And that's the brown. This rubber's, yeah, all kind of melting and going horrible, so let's grab it with something so we don't burn our fingers. And that's where our orange is going to go. Let's cut it a bit shorter. So we've got to go under those, under that capacitor. I probably should have gone under that first. We'll poke them together under there, I think. Don't like that, didn't quite melt on both sides. There we go. So it's just under that cap. Under this second cap as well, and then over to the hole. Mimic the original as much as we can. If you're a purist, I guess you'd use the same colours keep it exactly as original. That would be the ideal thing to do, but I'm not going to worry about doing that level of restoration here. But I can't deny part of me wants to, even though I don't really care about this thing that much. Always nice to keep them exactly as they were, even down to that sort of level. But unless it's going in a museum where people are going to maybe reference it one day as an original, I don't think it matters too much. So that comes up through, I may not even need to remove the front panel again, through a hole there. Back out that way. And I think I went above that control. Come on. So keep that nice and neat. And I guess we should aim for the same length. Let's just follow that. Go through there, so around. Something like that. Let's just chop that off for now. I guess what we can do is put our lamps back in place, let they clamp in there. And actually that'll make it nice and a good way to hold them while we solder to them. So that's the job I've done. Orange in and then loops to the other one, yellow onto that one and loops to the other one. That's on the back terminal anyway, so we don't have to worry about that running across that bit. And even that one's going across the same bit it's connected to by pure accident. So that's that side done, and we just repeat the same with this other lot. And this is the one I'm most worried about forgetting where they went. So that's the red and green again. The yellow one. Yeah, I think we'll just start on the inside here. I could poke them through the hole as I go, but let's just get the main bit hooked up, then wrap them together, then go back the other way. Yeah, I actually thought in most valve equipment they twisted it, went through and twisted them around the terminals and then soldered them, so it's good to see that these aren't. Maybe because these were added in after all the components, they're probably twisted around. Now I've got a bit of rubber attached to that. Let's try and flow it out of there with the solder. So the brown wire went to the green. Guess I should really get my wire stripper out for this, but I'm so used to doing it by hand. With side cutters, I don't even think about wire strippers. It's even shorter than the other side, but we'll wrap up all this wire together anyway. Most of the length, because it'll be easy to get it through the hole that way. I've already stripped the ends, that will make it a little bit harder to get through the hole. And I think this came over the first thing. probably to keep it off that tuning dial, that big drum thing. We'll leave a little bit of excess in there, then it went round the other, under that lever thing there. And of course it's going everywhere but where I want it. And round like that. And again we can clip our valve, magic eye thing. It's a bit bent all over the place. That's actually a point with this side. I guess we don't want those lamps actually, they should be bent, I would think, so that they don't touch the velvet ideally. Bent the actual bit that clamps it. Let's retension that. Still a bit loose. This thing just detensions very easily, so I suspect that metal's not the best. But it might be me bending, even though I'm holding that bit still. I'm trying to hold, kind of need to, let's get some cutters or something. Hold that still while you bend this bit a bit, so you don't detension it. I think I still detensioned it. Crazy. Even when you hold it still with the cutters. That's better. Yeah, a little bit up off the felt. I think that's how it should be, surely. Yellow wire off there. So again we'll snip and slide. So there, across down to, let's just cut it off around there somewhere, so we can at least slide it. Snipped it in two different spots. Yeah, I guess something like that. Yeah, interesting, there's a random bit of blue wire there. Maybe they had some waste bit from somewhere else. They thought they'll use it up there or something. Maybe it was just the right length. I don't know. Maybe they just ran out of brown wire during the production of this particular one. Who knows? But like I said, they might have had a offcut from elsewhere, and rather than cut some more new brown wire off the roll, they use their offcut. Would actually make sense. Okay. Yeah, that socket's not got the best soldering job on it for some reason. We're ripping all the rubber off, but not getting the wire. Yeah, it's all the solders on one side basically. Yeah, I'm just ripping all the rubber off again. That's it. I've got a big dagger solder hanging off there. Let's get rid of some of that mess. And we'll re-tin it. Yeah, it's mostly on that side unfortunately, which is a pain when you're doing it the way I'm doing it. Oh, here we go. I've got a bit on the other side. And that one. Beautiful. So snip that around there somewhere. And it's going to come, oh, I've got to come across to here somewhere. Anyway, let's get a bit extra. Probably strip that a bit too long. Now, we've got one little fractured bit there, just I'll solder that in so it can't come out. I don't think it's going to touch anything important, but why risk it? So yeah, eats a bit of time even doing what is a simple job because you don't have to actually think about it. But you got a lot of mechanical messing around to do. But that's it, that's sorted that out. Okay, I've made a couple of rubber mounts. I'm about to make another one. Actually used one of these, I just happened to find it lying around. It's an adapter from like the concrete or ceramic terracotta pipe to PVC 100mm, and that was sitting there pretty much to be thrown out. I did try a bit of tyre wall off, but it was a pretty old tyre, wasn't the best, and it's full of cotton and stuff, of course. It's not the easiest. So this is slightly curved, but it doesn't seem to matter. I cut the little lip off it there, and you just basically cut across diagonally, just back from the actual diagonal on the corners there. Start cutting into that a bit. Maybe we can actually catch some of it on camera with a bit of luck. I'm just using a Stanley knife. Try not to cut too deep. Then you've got to be super careful here. Cut it across the other way, leaving a thin bit that the glass is going to sit on. Being super careful with these things, you do not want this to slip and cut your fingers. I don't like blood, so I'm pretty good at avoiding cutting myself, so there we go, that's a piece off there. Then it's a matter of just cutting in towards the sort of corner, cut a square or 90-degree kind of cut into there, level with the bit we just cut off, and then come up a bit higher, cut it again. Seemingly hard to get it to go in a nice straight line. So we cut a bit there. That's for the sheet of glass to go into. Then it's a little more difficult trying to actually get that bit out of there. I've been using a pair of side cutters and sort of going in as best I can towards the corner. But this is a good soft sort of rubber, not too soft, not too hard, and not full of cotton and rubbish like a car tyre. Probably take a little bit more out of there. It's not too critical, but as long as you've got a little pocket there for the glass to slide into, so it goes under the glass a bit. Oh, so I've got my other little, I was trying some sheet rubber, and I was actually going to clamp it between two sheets of sheet rubber, was my initial idea. But there's not a lot of room to these controls, even for this rubber stuff's getting in the way a bit, because it's hard to dig that out deep enough. I might just have to slice a bit off. I was just going to clamp 2 bits of rubber either side of the glass and put it on the side of the chassis, or this front bit, but they tended to get in the way of these controls, and even these are a bit of a pain, so I'm going to have to shave a bit off the side with it without cutting into that little pocket, hopefully. Probably doesn't matter if it opens up a little bit, and I think I'll just silicone these to the front. It's going to be the easiest way. The originals went through a hole in the panel, but I can't really cut that out unless I get an even thicker bit of rubber and spend half the day on it. So I think we'll just get these little bits to hold it together. So I'll have to stick to that felt, I think. That seems to run in there alright. This one probably just wants a little bit slicing off the side. Oops, I might have cut a little bit too much off. But anyway, should I hold it together? Oh no, she's good. This pocket's still intact so the glass can't fall out. And I think I'll just put the corners like that. We'll stick the original one down that's still there. Probably should really remove that since the others went bad, but it does rock a little bit, which is not ideal, but a bit of silicone can make up the difference. And I do need to give this glass a bit more of a clean. Oh no, what's it catching on? So that's the valve, the magic eye. How's that sticking out so far? I must have put that out a bit too far, or it's moved. No, I can handle it. I guess with the glass in place now, it's probably pushing down more than it was before. So I didn't notice that magic eye was sticking out too far. But this is forcing the pointer down lower because it was sort of bent up in the air. Yeah, wrong knob, or wrong shaft. I think this should go to the end of those yellow lines. Still a little bit tight here and there. Uh-oh, we're catching again on that thing. Is it that thing or is it the glass? This thing does tilt up, which is a bit annoying. Maybe it's not the magic eye. No, I think it is. Yes, that's sitting in exactly the right spot. It must be the magic eye. How does it keep moving forward? Yeah, move that and it... Well, obviously when I tighten, I wonder if when I tighten it up, I reckon it's screwing itself forward as I tighten it up. That's what it is. Yeah, it is. It moves forward a bit as you do up the butterfly nut on it. Not surprising, I guess. Still catching a bit. Oh, well, that's a real pain. And just being super careful not to let this glass go because it may fall and break. There we go, let's put it back a bit. I was sort of thinking it would come up fairly flush, but maybe not. It's still dragging a little bit, but that's just on the felt, I guess. Possibly we needed to be a bit higher with these things. Or maybe I need to bend that a bit. For some reason it tries to tilt upwards. I guess with the cord on the back's probably part of the reason. Let's press everything down. Well, the other thing is that I can do is put a bit of extra silicone under there. No, I think it's alright. Getting a bit tight down this end. Getting very tight down this end. It's because this cord's riding on the thing, I think. Not that you'll probably need to go right down the bottom, but yeah, I'm starting to think that cord's riding up the pulley a bit. I forget what our cord supplier said about that. It's due to something being a bit out. Maybe we can push a whole lot to the other side carefully without risking damage to it. And maybe it won't ride as far forward, don't know. Yeah, still tending to bunch up a bit. So it's probably going to have a few little imperfections. But anyway, that's my little rubber mouse. I'm going to stick them down. I'll take this off and very gently clean the back of it. But when I was scraping these, or sort of scraping, peeling with some side cutters, the old dried up rubber there that had gone all weird, it didn't seem to take any paint with it, other than I did scratch a little bit in one spot accidentally when I was poking it with a screwdriver. Just scraping off the last bit. Oh, we've got a rusty screw head mark there. So we'll give that a bit of a tidy up. Stick some, I'm just going to use a bit of whatever this is, roof and gutter that I've got left. Put a blob under each one, stick it down, leave it overnight. And other thing I notice is these lamps tend to move in and touch the glass a bit. So they might just need extra clamping in place once I find exactly where they go. And that should sort that bit out. And yeah, I just remembered there is a capacitor in the back here. Paper cap here with goo running down the back panel, so we better replace that one at least. This is the surround that goes around the radio. I've pulled it out of the cabinet because it looks really grotty and horrible. It's kind of, I'm not sure it's meant to be this sort of finish, like almost like a hammer tone but something different, or whether this has gone bad over time. It's all sort of crinkly, like wrinkly old skin or something. I just cleaned that bit with a scrubbing brush and some meth, and I think it's dried off. Might even put it in front of the heater a bit. But I'm not sure what this finish is meant to be. And this is one of the problem with this old stuff is, I think it's dried off a little bit more now. This is absolutely freezing. It's a piece of aluminium. I guess a cast piece. And it is absolutely freezing at the moment. It's probably about 0 degrees by the feel of it, so let's just try and dry that off a bit. But yeah, it's some sort of, possibly meant to be a crinkly sort of paint. I think that has cleaned a bit of it off, but it still looks absolutely horrible. And I would like this part to actually look a lot better than it does, but I guess the other thing I could try is, do I dare put some acetone or something on it? We really want something that melts this stuff a bit or something, maybe, and might put it on a cotton bud or something. Something that actually sort of resurfaces it or something. There's an inconspicuous spot I can try it on. It's doing something to it. But is that just because it's wetting it? Well, I guess the bit down here is probably the original look to it. Maybe. That's taken a bit of it off, so that's possibly a positive sign. Because I kind of want to, like I think you can use terps or something to melt shellac and stuff. If you can kind of melt it, you can kind of resurface it. A bit better than actually cleaning it alone. I hope this doesn't suddenly dry off and I realise I ruined it all, but yeah, bits of it are worn right through. That bit's gone. It's not a very nice colour either, but I guess it was meant to match the woodwork, but it's kind of like a mission brown, like we used to paint our fences. But I guess that's what they had in them days. Is that coming up better? I think it might be. Probably not the recommended way to do it, but I'm not an expert on finishing vintage radios. I just want this thing to look better. And if anything can kind of take this dirty look at least off this stuff, even if it's still wrinkly and horrible, which I think it's kind of meant to be. But I'm not really a fan of patina that much. If things at least look clean is a good start. If they look at all dirty, then I'm not a fan. And I'd actually prefer them, the better they look. You don't necessarily want them looking mint, because that can sort of look fake if it's an older thing, but if it looks dirty or tatty sort of, then I'm not a big fan. I can see why some people like these old cars with a bit of rust and multiple paint colours showing through and stuff. Some of that does kind of look alright. If you sort of want to restore it back to original, I think that is coming up better, so I think that's improving it markedly actually. And when I opened this drawer up, of course, I was greeted with the rat urine smell still, so there's still a bit of that in there, so I think I'll have to take the cabinet out and hose it out and scrub it out, take the speakers out of it. Probably wouldn't hurt to get them out and clean them up anyway. But yeah, I definitely do not want it smelling like that, because that's another deal breaker. No one's going to want to touch it if it's like that. I think that's kind of getting that horrible lighter brown tint of it, which looks like dust or dirt. Still pretty horrible though, if I'm honest. I kind of don't want to damage the originality of it, but I don't particularly want to look at this either. And I guess if you do damage it or change it, someone can always put it back to something like original. But unfortunately there's no real photos. You're lucky if you can even find a black and white useless photo in the newspaper or one of these things from the past, let alone anything that really shows you what the finish was like. I guess the only way anyone knows is if they've got a good example somewhere of the same model, or maybe one from the same manufacturer, or if it was a standard finish used on lots of things. But I got zero reference on this one. I don't think I've ever seen one with this kind of finish, because generally they had Bakelite. Surrounds is the main difference, and Bakelite you can actually polish up and make it look nice again. I think this would have been better if it was Bakelite. Of course then it might have been broken or something. That's definitely cleaner than it was, so at least I'm happy that it's not, doesn't look dirty anymore. It looks rough but not dirty, so that's a start. But that acetone seems to be doing something that the metho wasn't doing. So like I say, you kind of need to cut into the surface a bit and wipe some of it away, I think. Because that it looks like dirt, but it probably isn't actual dirt. It might be some sort of sun damage, other chemical change, and that's why it doesn't just wipe off. But a bit of methylated spirits or the like, or cleaner. Yeah, I must say that's a massive improvement, even though it's still pretty tacky and worn and stuff. If that dries out like that, yeah, that's a substantial improvement. And is it worth, do I dare do something with that little badge? I'm very tempted to polish that a little bit. I think I probably will, because that should have been a nice copper looking thing. I might just clean a bit more. There's still a bit of a dirty looking patches here and there. A bit there's not the best. And along there still has that look to it. I think some of that's going through to the silver underneath. Yeah, it's some sort of crinkly paint, I think. That's kind of gone a bit lighter there now. Maybe it's the aluminium coming through. Not really sure, it's just more shiny, I think. Yeah, I personally would love to get a wire wheel or something and get rid of this stuff completely. I wonder what it would look like as a bit of polished aluminium. Not very original, no doubt. But yeah, that is definitely an improvement. I can't help myself, I'm going to polish that a little bit. I'm sure someone out there thinks you shouldn't do it, but it's my radio, so I'm going to just gently, I want that copper to look a bit more copper. Doesn't have to be like a bright brand new coin, but then again, now I'm thinking about that coming through there, it's kind of tempting to overdo it. Oh yeah, that is a definite improvement. Like, what's the point of having a bit of copper on there if it doesn't look like copper? And I mean, I assume it would have been like that when it was new. So the only reason you'd want to keep it is to make it look aged. Looks like, is that a knight's head in armour or something? I'm not sure that's what it's meant to be, but that's, to me, is what it looks like. I forget what the origins of this company were. I think I did read somewhere online where the Stromberg Carlson name and company came from. Its history. That is just I think that's just a very fine, it's like a piece of foil, I think. Hopefully I'm not bending it. It's actually going gold colored. So maybe it was gold originally, but it's starting to look more brass than copper now. Oh yeah, look at it. It's starting to peel up. Oh, I really probably shouldn't, but it's just literally foil, I think. Yeah, that's actually just a little foil. I thought it was actually a bit of, more like a coin pressed or something. Let's have a look. Has he got antlers or something on his head? Yeah, I think it has been bent in a little bit. Hard to tell, but I think that is like a knight's head. But yeah, he's got like some sort of leaf antlers or something, and another bit sticking up out the top. Or three of them. Maybe it's a three-pronged something. It's on a shield with a diagonal line. And I assume that's the head or the bust, much like the queen with the neck and shouldery bit. Or it's more just the neck's above the shoulder, I think. And a side view of the face. Who knows? Not that it really matters, but that's an interesting part of the thing. But yeah, that looks a lot better now it's shined up a bit. And this whole thing, if it stays that good, at least it's not dirty. And the radio itself is looking a ton better. I can't believe how much better it looks with the glass back on. I'll have a quick look at that. Unfortunately, quite a bit of reflections on it, but that's the radio dial. I just silicone those bits in. You can just slide it ever so slightly. I got it ever so slightly off straight. But that looks so much better than what this thing originally looked. I guess we can actually put this on while we've got it here. And yeah, that's just so much better. It's amazing how much better they look cleaned up. Maybe that side's a bit low actually. So the other side's the higher one. So we've got the shortwave showing. I think this, of course, it was originally slumped. So unfortunately, looks like our original piece actually put it at the wrong height. I guess I should have really took this thing off first and set it to this. Would have been the smart thing to do in hindsight. Yeah, the gram is just cut off ever so slightly. Well, that's the good thing about using silicone is I can, and I probably will, actually peel these ones off and, well, that bottom one can stay. It's just this one here. Can I do it without busting the glass? That is stuck on a lot better than I would have thought actually. Given it's sort of stuck to the fur, I assumed it would come off fairly easily. There should only be a perimeter of it around this one. Oh, here we go, it's starting to lift. Yeah, that bit I think I should have probably removed it. In hindsight, I thought it would do the job. Maybe if I just take the back off it so I can slide up higher. Yeah, it's got to go a few mils higher. And one of the reasons I didn't mess with it is because I thought it's a bit risky to remove it. I prefer not to risk it at all if I could, but if I snip a bit of this off on the upper bit and the bit that sticks out the back, just take all that silicone and that horrible old rubber bit that I just assumed that would locate it in the wrong spot, in the right spot, but I guess that was probably the wrong thing to do when, given the other ones had slumped a bit. It looked like it was kind of in the right place, but looks can be deceiving, as they say. Yeah, that's getting very close to where it should be, I think. Probably needs to come up a little bit more. Now I can read gram. We've got shortwave there. I guess going by these lines, if we're getting the same, that's got that line just showing. And going by that, that's the line just below the gram. I think that's pretty close to where it should be. Of course, this is going to move around depending on where the chassis sits exactly and all the rest. Should be about there somewhere, I'm guessing. Maybe the whole lot should have been slightly higher. And then I think this thing can, oh, I've got to change that capacitor. Now I had a look online at capacitors. I think they're saying polypropylene, or was it something film foil or something? Capacitors are the one. That's what the Radio Museum site was saying are the best ones to use to replace paper caps in AC applications where they're used. There is someone on eBay selling these black caps in the same sort of packages, axial long leads, and they got them made in black to suit, but they had different type of caps, so I'm not sure they're as good. I think polyester is the green cap type. I do know that old televisions had a lot of red coloured caps, which might be this polypropylene stuff. High voltage, up around that 630 volts and stuff. So I probably should salvage some of those, or should have in the past. Could have saved millions of those things, especially some of those old colour TVs are absolutely chockers with them. Like the old Sharp 1831s and stuff. But I do have one old AWA chassis here somewhere that might have some. I do have some caps still in stock, but mostly ceramics and green caps. Oh, these are the non-polarised caps with a band on them, aren't they? Was it Mr. Carlson or someone did a whole video on that? Something to do with the outer foil. It should be hooked to the ground end or something to shield it, or some other thing like that. So it's a 0.05, 200, it's only 200 volt this one, so it's not a 630 volt even, so that's something. But you can buy them on eBay 10 or 20 at a time from China, a lot cheaper. So there's another 0.5, 0.01, 0.1, 0.1 400, 0.1 200. So there's only a couple of values in here really anyway. But the fact that one's leaking its innards down the side there means that's got to go, I think. Yeah, that doesn't really work. Now I've got to get used to using these tag strips, because you've got to sort of space things a bit differently to what you think. And the cap just hangs off. So if we cut them back a bit, hopefully not too much. Yeah, let's put that there. I should use some bigger solder, I think. I just removed a bit of solder mainly so I could remember where it went. So those end ones. But I think that one should do the job to keep it going, but whether it's just a polyester cap or anything better, I'm not actually sure. since I never purchased these from the original supplier, and back then we probably wouldn't have cared. Polyester worked in most things. How critical it really is, I don't know, but yeah, that's very shiny on them, so that's definitely spewing out some of its wax or whatever it is. I think it's paper coated with wax. And that could also mean it's getting hot in there, so we'll definitely chuck that old Ducon away. Type PC215. And I think that's this thing largely done. I'll silicone that piece back into place in that new position. And I'm glad I've got that front panel cleaned up. So it's almost ready, but I think I'll give that cabinet a wash down. And then I've got to order some caps to replace the electrodes in the other chassis. The amp chassis probably should really replace all the ones. I think this has got another 3 on this one. I think I'll order enough. I might just disconnect. Where are they? These 3 big caps here, they're connected to earth to the chassis, so if I find an earth terminal, I don't think any of them are just in parallel, which is a pain. Because if they were, I could just put a bigger cap in and replace a lot at once, possibly, but well, that one goes via a resistor to that one. They're close to in parallel. But yeah, I think we might just, if possible, I guess you could almost cut the leg off the old one and lift it up or something, leave it floating in the air just so they aren't connected to voltage. That one's just got 1 wire going to it. So that could be rerouted to the new cap. Or the new cap could go from that spot to the chassis there probably. Yeah, those ones I reckon you can almost cut the terminals off, lift them, then put your cap from that joint across to the nearest solder joint on the chassis. Quite a bit of messing around these things, trying to work out how to patch them up and get them going again. But I guess it keeps the job interesting.